Okay, so we're looking at the exam style practice paper from the textbook, and we're on question 3. Okay, and we're asked to identify 2 mistakes made by the student. So the best way to make sure you've definitely answered a question like this, because we've seen these come up before where you're asked to spot the errors, is to sort of, so on this one, they haven't given us kind of any reference to sort of what's happening at each stage. So the best thing to do is say where you think the error is, and then maybe try and correct it as well. Because sometimes you might be able to spot the error, but you might not be totally sure how to explain it. So if we have a look through, so their notation is fine. They've got all that correct. X to the power of 4, obviously nothing's happened there. So that's our first thing to check. And they have made a mistake there, okay? Because a square root is a power of a half, but it was 3 over root x. So the fact that it's at the bottom of the fraction means that should have been a negative there. So I'm just going to put, so error 1. So we're answering part A. So error 1, minus 3 over root x should be minus 3x minus a half, and then maybe, I think it's quite obvious what I'm saying there, but might just add in the mistake that they've made. So they've not included the negative in their power. Okay, right, so reading on, so have they then integrated everything correctly? Yeah, that's absolutely fine. They've increased the power by 1 and divided by 5. They've increased the power to 3 over 2. So yeah, although that's obviously not the correct answer, that does follow through their working. So I wouldn't say that was a mistake. Okay, so then they should be substituting in 2 and 1 and subtracting. And at a glance, that's kind of what they've done. But then if I look closely, the first set of brackets is where they've substituted in 1, and the second set is where they've substituted in 2. So they're doing the subtraction the wrong way round. Okay, so I'm going to just put that in words, and then so I'll put they're subtracting the wrong way round. And I'd just be a bit worried that was a bit too vague. Might be enough. So they're subtracting the wrong, I just got a tweet, right, wrong, I'll get rid of that. Okay, the wrong way round. And again, just to really confirm I know what I'm talking about, and it's a bit of a faff, but I'm just going to write it the correct way round. So it should be, so this is probably a little bit of overkill, but I don't want to risk not getting any marks. So it should have been, in fact, one thing I should probably do is check that these values in the brackets are actually correct. It did say 2 errors, so I'm assuming, so there's my full answer. So I'm assuming they have subbed incorrectly, but let's just check that. So yeah, 2 to the 5 would be 32. 2 cubed would be 8, and then the square root of that. Yep, so what they've put in the brackets is correct. They're just subtracting the wrong way around. And then evaluate the definite integral. Okay, so for part B, I'm going to have to correct those mistakes. Okay, so it should have been, so if we take it from the actual integration, so x to the 4 minus 3x, and then that should have been minus a half plus 2. So that's going to be, so they had this bit correct. So this, I would have increased the power to a half, and then I would have divided by a half, which would make that 6. And they had the 2x correct. Then I must show working that I am substituting it in. So 2 to the power of 5 is 32. X to the power of a half is root 2. And then 2 times 2 is just 4. And then minus a fifth. 1 to the power of a half is still just going to be 1, so that's just going to be minus 6 plus 2. And then it does say, try and line that up properly, right. So it does say, give your answer to correct 3 significant figures. So one nice thing about this question is I don't need to worry about sort of the surds and leaving them, leaving anything in exact form. So I can just stick that straight into my calculator, basically. So it's going to be 32 over 5 minus 6 root 2 plus 4. And then just be really careful with the brackets. So then it's minus a fifth minus 6 plus 2. Okay, and I'm getting that to be 5.71, and it, let's just check accuracy. So yeah, it did say 3 significant figures. So let's just check that answer. Brilliant, we're good. Okay.